Hi, my name is Lynette, and I'm a career specialist here at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library Career Center. Today, we're talking about the Workplace Survival Guide. What is that? Well, it basically means a guide to how to start a new job from the right foot, how to kind of get along well with your coworkers, make a good first impression on your boss, and just make sure that you succeed in your job and your career. Now, that doesn't mean that it's only for people who've never had a job before. There are lots of people who've been in their jobs for some time who could maybe benefit from some of this information. To begin with, let me share my screen so that you can see what I see. All right. So something that we do see sometimes in the Career Center is people who have trouble keeping a job, who seem to constantly be getting in trouble at their job, don't seem to fit in, their boss doesn't seem to like them, and they're not really sure why. They feel like they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, but for some reason it's just not working. There are many reasons this could be the case, but one of the most common reasons that we found is that people don't know the unspoken rules of the workplace. These are things that are not written down in your job description. No one will specifically tell you that you need to do these things in the workplace, but in general, everybody needs to do these things in the workplace. Work comes first. This is one of the unspoken rules that a lot of people struggle with. Your personal life should not get in the way of your job, should not supersede your work life. If you are constantly talking about personal issues, if you are bringing personal issues to the job, if your personal problems are causing some sort of issue that's making you less productive, less efficient, less professional as an employee, that's a major problem. This can be difficult for people because, of course, you're not just a robot employee, you're a human being. You have a life of your own, you have issues of your own, you have a life outside of work. I know that, and I'm not saying that you have to be a robot. I'm saying make sure that your personal life, for the most part, stays out of the workplace. Try to fit in. Make sure that you're not too different from everyone else there. Again, you're not a robot. You're an individual, unique human being. You're going to have unique things about you, and that's fine. You don't have to be exactly like everyone else. But if everybody else is in this kind of culture and you're way over here on the other side, that's going to create some conflict. You're not going to fit in well with your coworkers, and it's not going to give the kind of image that the company has tried to foster through their company culture and working environment. So be aware of this. You can still be you, but try to dial it back a bit if you're on an extreme opposite end from everyone else that you work with. And if you really can't, and you can't fit in, you may want to look at a different job. Stay busy, or at least look busy, the whole time that you're at work. If you do your job efficiently and get everything that you need to done in time, well, that's fantastic. But then it means that you might be sitting around with nothing to do, twiddling your fingers. And that looks bad. To a hiring manager, if they see you sitting there actively doing nothing, they might not think, oh, well, she got her work done 3 hours early. Isn't she efficient? They might think, why am I paying her to sit here and do nothing for 3 hours? So you want to stay busy, or at least look busy. If you at least look like you're doing something productive, then it's not going to rub a hiring manager or a boss the wrong way. So there are many ways to look busy on the job. Be creative with it, and make sure that you're not looking like you're sitting around doing nothing. Do what they ask, even if you don't want to. Something that no boss ever wants to hear is, that's not in my job description. That's not my responsibility. I shouldn't have to do that. it's kind of a bad attitude. It's an uncooperative attitude. Now, there are some things that bosses ask people to do that are inappropriate or even illegal. I am not saying to do that, but anything that could reasonably be expected of an employee in your position or in your department, you should go ahead and do that. You should be willing to go the extra mile, even if it's not really your responsibility to do so. If it's something that needs to get done, you should be willing to step in and get it done. Employees who go the extra mile are employees who have successful careers. Which brings us to our last point. Work is not always fun. Everything we've said so far reinforces that. You need to not bring your personal life to work. You need to not stand out too much from everybody else. You need to stay busy. You need to do things you don't want to do. None of this sounds fun. All of this sounds pretty nasty, actually. But that's kind of the working world. That's why they pay you to do this. It's not supposed to be something fun or enjoyable that you do in your free time for no reason. Even the best job in the world, even the happiest, most fulfilling, most perfect job in the world is going to include things that are unpleasant occasionally. There are going to be things that you have to do, even in your dream job, that aren't fun. That's why it's a job. That's why they give you money to do it. Oh, and last, you want to make sure that you don't get involved in other people's problems. This is sort of an extension of making sure your personal issues don't get in the way. Make sure other people's personal issues don't get in the way. Their business is none of your business. If they have personal issues, if they bring drama to work, if they create drama within the workplace, stay out of it. It is not your place. Work is not a social club. And trying to make it one, trying to take sides or be part of a clique or be involved in drama, a lot of times it backfires. A lot of times you wind up making enemies that way. It's much better to just stay out of it and stay neutral. These rules can be difficult to deal with, difficult to understand and to put into practice. Let's take a look at a few examples. Jasmine works as a cashier at Winn-Dixie. At a slow point, her boss asks her to clean up a spill in the soda aisle. She ignores him. Well, let's see what's going on. Why would she do this? Here's what she's thinking. I'm a cashier, not a janitor. He shouldn't tell me to do stuff that's not my job. I hate the way he bosses me around. So she does make a couple of interesting points here that he's asking her to do something that's not really part of her job description. But let's take a look at what the boss is thinking. He's thinking, well, if she's just standing around doing nothing, I'm going to ask her to help out. She thinks the rules don't apply to her, but we all have to do the work that needs doing. Now, he makes some good points too. And if we think over the workplace rules, some of those apply to this situation, such as work is not always fun. You need to do what they tell you to do. You need to look busy, at least, the whole time you're at work. And when we think about these things, we can see that Jasmine is clearly not behaving in an appropriate way because she's not familiar with these unwritten rules, that it's not really possible to stand around and do nothing on the job, and it's not really possible to refuse to do the things that your superiors ask you to do. Let's look at another example. Carlos works on the lawn care crew at Radisson Hotel. His boss tells him to take out his piercings and cover up his tattoos. Carlos is angry. Why? Well, here's what he's thinking. It's my body. I should be able to look how I want. What does my nose ring have to do with my ability to cut grass? He's making some good points. But here's what his boss is thinking. She's thinking, our company must maintain a certain image. Our guests expect the staff to look professional. All the piercings and tattoos might scare or offend people. Now, she's making some good points too. And if we look at the workplace rules, some of those do apply to this situation, such as you need to fit in. Your personal issues should not get in the way of the job. Do what they tell you to do. When you think about it from this perspective, you can see that clearly Carlos is in the wrong here. If he were familiar with these workplace rules, he would know that his boss has a right to ask him to maintain a certain image while he's on the job. All right, let's move on now to a slightly different area. We're going to talk about communication. A lot of the workplace problems that arise because of communication problems, communication differences. People feel that they're not being taken seriously, they're being taken advantage of, that someone is insulting them, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes things were misinterpreted, misunderstood. Sometimes the other person isn't aware of how they're coming across. And sometimes you're not aware of how you're coming across. Sometimes you may not be communicating things clearly, and other people might think that you're saying something upsetting when you really didn't mean to. Communication is one of the most important skills that any functioning adult needs to learn. So let's look at a few of the things that you want to keep in mind for professional communication in the workplace. One thing you do want to do is be aware of the generation gap. Different generations communicate in different ways. If you're working with older employees, they tend to prefer face-to-face conversations. So if you're working with a senior citizen, you probably want to do as much of that communication as possible in person, because that's how that generation grew up. That's what they're accustomed to, and that's going to work better for them. On the other hand, if you work with people who are of a younger generation, if they are millennials or Generation Z, these are people who grew up with technology, using technology as their primary means of communicating with other people. So younger workers are probably going to communicate better via text or email. Don't ever get mean, angry, or insulting. In a professional setting, you want to make sure that you don't lose your temper, even if it's very difficult to keep your temper. Even if you are provoked, you need to keep a handle on it. You want to make sure that you're not the person who goes low. You want to go high. You want to keep things professional. Don't ever talk to another employee as if they're the problem. Don't say, you're screwing up and I need you to fix it. That's not a good way to talk to somebody. It's going to put them on the defensive. It's going to make them think that you're being mean and unprofessional. Instead, you want to talk with the other employee about saying, look, there is a problem. We need to work together to solve it. What can we do to fix this? Don't make it a me versus them kind of thing. That's going to make people combative. That's going to create workplace conflict. Instead of me versus them, make it us together versus the issue. Do think about the other person's perspective. This comes back to the old adage, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Be aware of what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what their issues are. And if you don't know what someone's issue is, if someone seems to be having a problem or having a meltdown for no reason, ask, talk to them. Don't talk to them in a mean way, but say, look, I've noticed that there's such and such issue with your work. Is something going on to make this more difficult? Can we do anything to help? Think about things from the other person's point of view. Don't assume that they're a bad guy. Assume that something's going on in their head that you're not aware of. Don't tune out what other people are saying. I think a lot of us are guilty of this sometimes. When we're having a conversation, we're not so much listening as we are waiting for our turn to speak, because what we have to say is important, right? Yes, but the other person feels like what they have to say is important too. Listen to what they have to say. Really pay attention. Do them the courtesy of giving them your respect and your attention. And finally, do recognize your bad habits. We all have bad habits when it comes to communication. What you can do to make yourself a more successful employee is be aware of where your weak spots are and work to try to fix them. And if you would like any help with any of this or have any further questions, please just give us a call here at the Career Center. But this concludes today's video. If you liked this video, please hit like. And if you'd like to see more content from us, please hit subscribe. Thank you.